Well, hey guys, it's Dr. Drake 63 here again today, and once again I'm going to talk about my BCM Recce 14, which I know early on when I first got it, I was pronouncing this Recce, I was pronouncing this Reiki, I was pronouncing this a lot of things. But I wanted to come back to this because this particular firearm represents an evolution for me in semi-automatic, what I'll call military style firearms. I've got a history with these things. I did not serve. I have not used these at the office, as some guys would say. But one point or another, I've had a lot of these. Had a lot of these and AKs as well. And I know my channel has kind of gone the direction of a lot of revolvers, lever actions, cowboy stuff. But I needed to let you guys know I have not forgotten about the utility, the usefulness, and the downright coolness of the AR platform. At one time I favored the AK platform. I got over that. Next to this is what we refer to as a bit of a Franken build. This is a 8.5 inch 300 blackout. And this is an SBR. I paid the man my money and got a stamp. I got checked out 9 ways to Sunday, and I've had this for several years, and this is one accurate little firearm, but it's made up of a combination of parts. It's got one manufacturer's handguard, another manufacturer's barrel, another manufacturer's upper, another manufacturer's lower, drop-in trigger, you name it. Whereas this Recce 14 is all from Bravo Company, every bit of it. So starting at the back, this has a Bravo Company adjustable stock. I like it. It locks up very nice and tight. Very nice and tight. I do prefer a fixed versus flip up sight kind of scenario. This particular set is Daniel Defense. Daniel Defense makes good stuff. When I bought this complete rifle, I was torn between this and a Daniel Defense. I view them as being on the same par quality wise. I went for this because I preferred the stock, preferred the grip. Wasn't into Daniel Defense's proprietary furniture, but nothing against them. This is topped with a Trijicon. This is an MRO. It's always on, and it has been on for, I don't know, probably about a year now. And I have the Streamlight ProTac. This is a 600 lumen light. Easy on, easy off. This is a 14.5 inch barrel. So what that means is that this compensator's a little bit extra size and it's pinned on. Keep things legal. I've got plenty of rail. I don't use it. A lot of guys are getting these recce's, and besides putting lights on and using a pressure plate, which is just simply a switch coming off your light that you can activate with your thumb, this is real convenient for my thumb where I grip the rifle. And I use this as a hand stop. I don't use it as a grip. Whereas on this 300 Blackout with the short barrel, I do use this as a front grip. But anyway, I do not use magnification for this. It would be real easy to put a scope on this for coyote hunting, whatever. I love this particular hand guard. This is BCM's hand guard. I like the way it locks in. The bolt group is what you want. It's chrome lined. It's tool steel bolt. Staked gas key. As you can see, another look at the Trigican MRO. And a little bit of what I call NASCAR. You've got BCM's logo. Right on top of it, you got Daniel Defense. Not a big fan of doing that kind of stuff, but you know, I've got what works for me. Also like this in conjunction with a convertible sling, and I don't need to get into that. You guys have seen videos on that. This is a 1-in-7 twist chrome line barrel. It's 4150 steel. I have had more accurate ARs. They were not chrome lined. They were more made for accuracy. This one is made for durability. So I have not shot this at distance with any kind of magnification, but I can shoot a 1 or less MOA group at 50 yards with this red dot sight consistently. Now, I've had very good luck with this 300 Blackout SBR, which is, by the way, also topped with the Daniel Defense fixed sights. My eyes love those. They're very dependable. Here I've got a Spikes Tactical bolt carrier group, which is of a similar quality to this BCM, and I named those specs earlier. These exterior pins here, they keep your trigger, your drop-in trigger from moving, and the pins from coming out. People will ask me about this compensator up front. It's from Kaw Valley. And the light is an N-Force. Again, in that same position, it's easy for me to reach, regardless of which one of these I grab. If I do have the light on, which by the way is very easy to pop on and off, I'm ready to go. I don't run an optic on this. I run this open iron sights. Part of that has to do with my philosophy of use and how I plink with this particular firearm, which tends to be inside 100 yards. Very, very accurate. But what it's not is as valuable as this BCM. You get something complete from the factory, and besides warranty and all those kind of good things, it just retains its value better. I'm not planning on selling this. I have had a lot of ARs and AKs come and go from my collection. These guys aren't going anywhere. These guys aren't going anywhere. So is the BCM a better quality firearm than my Franken gun? Well, most things are the sum of their parts. I believe the upper is better than what I have here. This is not a chrome line barrel, but it's a very accurate barrel. Very, very accurate. With magnification, I can easily shoot inch groups at 100, not a problem. I mentioned I did a two-part series comparing the modern AKM to the M4 platform. Suggest you check that out. Some of the notable AKs I have owned that are good quality. This Galil is as good as it gets, as well as this SLR made by Arsenal, which you can no longer get. That's in the 5.45 caliber. Here's a Romanian, kind of a standard kind of configuration with the drum, and I've owned a couple of the Yugoslavian, which are called NPAP rifles, and good utilitarian stuff. And then of course AKs, builds. I've owned a couple M&P 15s, which were very good quality, and like I said, I put together quite a few of my own, and enjoyed that process immensely. But it's like Legos. One last note, besides a brief overview today, I have done a detailed video about this ProTac. I have done a detailed video about this Trijicot MRO, as well as detailed information about these rifles. So there you have it, just a little bit of an update. I believe that every American firearm owner does not need to own tactical stuff. You should have what you want. And just want to remind everybody that just because you may not be into the tactical stuff doesn't mean that others shouldn't have that right. So please don't be limited in your view of the 2A. Remember that just because you're not into it doesn't mean that some of the rest of us might not be. We all need to support each other. Second Amendment's very specific. It says we have the right to own and bear arms. It doesn't specify which kind. Okay, for a guy that does a lot of revolver and lever action in videos, stuff like that as of late, you're probably wondering, well, what makes this guy decide it's time to get this out? Well, guys, this is America's rifle. In 2018, going on 2019, the AR platform, and this is a perfected version in the M4 type of configuration now, has evolved from that somewhat unreliable, somewhat underpowered rifle that people talk about from the mid to late 60s in Vietnam. That's a rifle that was released before it was really ready, before it was refined, against a very durable, different kind of firearm in the AK. So the comparison was always drawn. Well, as a guy that's owned many different types of AKs from many different countries, as well as many different types of ARs, I will just tell you right now that today's AR platform is every bit as dependable as an AK. You probably need to maintain it a little bit more than you do an AK, but what you're going to get out of it is a lot more accuracy. It's just a better firearm. And, if you go back and look at my videos, you will see different cases where I'm talking about those differences, and I do have a two-part series comparing an SLR 104 to this particular rifle. And the SLR, for the longest time, was my favorite military-style rifle. I just thought it was great, but haven't shot and used this for a long time. Have to tell you, this one has it. This one has it. It does what I need it to. It's very utilitarian, solid as can be. This thing's ridden around in trucks, been beat up, you name it, still looks pretty good. And, obviously the available accessories for something like this is unparalleled. Yeah, you can put rails and different things like that on AKs, but it's not nearly as modifiable, not nearly as adaptable as today's modern ARs. The ability, especially with a 1-in-7, to shoot the heavier stuff, the 70 grain, the 75, 77 grain ammunition, I think makes this a real winner. And a lot of the things that have been said against this firearm over time are just simply no longer true. And while you do have more AK-47 and 74 variants out there than any other kind of military rifle in history, keep in mind a lot of that has to do with just the fact that they're cheap to produce, and the Soviets for years cranked them out, gave them to their satellite states, and made them available to everybody. That's kind of what they did. The U.S. gave aid dollars and food and things like that, and the Soviets gave AKs. But given a choice, I'm going to pick this. I really am. Haven't lived with this rifle for about a year and shot the living heck out of it. I think we're sitting somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000 rounds down the pipe, which, hey, is just a weekend for some guys. But anyway, it's done well. I haven't had any failures to load, to feed, to eject of any kind. I have a pretty decent cleaning routine, but I don't baby the thing. I don't clean it every time I shoot it. It's, in my opinion, the epitome of a very solid mil-spec rifle. I mentioned Daniel Defense. There's others out there in the mid $1,000 to $2,000 range. You know, you start going above that, and you're talking about getting into a piston drive and things like that. And I'm not interested in the extra weight, and I don't believe it does anything for your performance. So, great firearms for you guys that are watching my channel that are mostly the older school kind of guys and don't have a lot of the tactical stuff. I'd highly recommend you think about getting an AR. Get one while you can. It just can do everything you need a rifle to do, and especially you can shoot the living heck out of it, and it keeps going. And you know, do I think about this in terms of a self-defense tool? Do I think about this in terms of a political statement tool? No. But you know what? I like the fact that I can have one of these, and who knows what I'd ever need to use it for. But if you don't have it, you can't use it for anything. So there is that. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of where I stand with my favorite military style utilitarian rifle. Is this as pretty as my 1873 Winchester clone that Uberti makes? No, not even close. But is it a tool in every sense that Glock 19 that I keep going on about is? Yes, it is. It's exactly what it is. So, appreciate you watching. I've got nothing but good things to say about Bravo Company. I've been on the phone with them with questions about different things over time. They're great. I highly recommend them, and hope that you will have the opportunity, if you haven't, to shoot an AR. If you can, don't get the cheapest one out there. Get one that has good components. The components that are really important in an AR are going to be your bolt group, your barrel, and your trigger. And most of those things, you put the right combination together, and the rest of this stuff is kind of just kind of dressing it up. Be a mil-spec trigger for an AR is a little bit sketchy and a little bit heavy on the pull. So you might want to keep in mind that a drop-in trigger might be a good investment. I highly recommend POF. They make great drop-in triggers. You can usually get those under $150. For me, it's about a 3.5 to 4.5 pound pull, and that works out really well. So that's not what's in this BCM. BCM has their own trigger that they put in here, which breaks in really nice. So just a little bit of an update for you. If you're interested in an AR, I suggest you try something like this. As much as I like something like this, it's not as practical as a 223. It's more expensive to shoot, and being an SBR, heck, I got to get permission to take this thing out of state. So there's something to that whole thing about using a pistol brace based on where the ATF views that today. But keep in mind, that's not law. That's opinion. That can change. So anyway, I appreciate you tuning in, and happy shooting. Remember, support the NRA, guys. This is DR Drake 63 saying so long.